Hi, I'm Peter Haddock, and welcome to another vlogcast this time from me, folks. And today I've got a fantastic guest on, David Gaughan. David, we've met before at numerous events I've been to with the West Midlands Combined Authority. And this one, I'm so pleased you've joined me for. We're going to put this out a National Apprentice Week, David, because I am so excited about what the West Midlands Combined Authority has been doing and can do for businesses in the region.
Thank you, Peter, and thanks for having me on this session. Ultimately, my job role is very much focused. I suppose it'd be really nice to put some brackets in this. Head of Employee Services, well, what does that mean? Because it means hundreds of different things, but in reality, bracket skills. My focus is all around workforce skills. So how can I support West Midlands businesses in terms of, one, in terms of linking residents to their jobs. So how do we move people around the labour market into good apprenticeship jobs? And then secondly, around how individuals within the workforce can do more exciting jobs. So individuals who might be at an entry-level job role, but how can they skill up, increase their levels of attainment so they can progress within the business and enable that business to grow further.
And the great thing about that, David, is we're looking at it in a holistic way. So we're putting this out in National Apprentice Week. You've supported an enormous amount of apprenticeships at the West Midlands Combined Authority because of the way you've actually worked and grabbed government funding and used it more effectively, in my opinion. So tell us a little bit about the apprenticeship support first, and then we'll go to that all-important thing that you've mentioned there. It's not just an apprenticeship, it's a career progression opportunity. And how do we support people to stay in work and in these industries, particularly the construction industry that I love? But tell us a little bit about that sort of stuff you've got and how it's becoming accessible for businesses in the region.
Well, I think the first thing is National Apprenticeship Week. This week, what we're celebrating is Skills for Life with an apprenticeship. So that's the first thing. And it's about individuals developing their skills and knowledge to enable them to succeed, both personally, but also within business. And that Skills for Life aspect is about these individuals developing their opportunities to create rewarding careers for themselves, but also to help businesses develop their future talent within their current workforce. So Skills for Life being the number one kind of priority, I suppose, in terms of the key message in National Apprenticeship Week. In terms of our work at the Combined Authority, over the last few years, we've quickly realised that for a lot of businesses and for a lot of SMEs, potential barriers to apprenticeships is a challenge. There's a challenge around cost. How do you actually pay for some of this training? Employers are expected to make a contribution towards the cost of apprenticeship training. So around about 4 years ago, the Combined Authority thought, well, how can we work with this big business to donate some of their levy, which they wouldn't actually be able to spend? So very large employers are expected to, in some cases, if you think about the NHS is the biggest employer in England, and their levy is something like £200 million. So they're paying to the apprenticeship levy over £200 million to spend on apprenticeship training. Now, number of employers actually can't spend all of that money within their current workforce or indeed their future workforce plans. So what we do is we actually engage with those large businesses and say, well, if you can't spend your levy, how about sharing and donating that levy, which you can't spend, to us so that we can work with small, medium enterprise businesses to recruit apprentices and reduce the cost of training to zero for that business. So far, we've actually had over £40 million worth of levy transfer donated to us in this region. And what we've been able to leverage through that investment from a number of large employers has been 3,000 apprenticeship starts, and over 1,000 SMEs have been supported through this levy transfer scheme. So it's been tremendous, and we've seen apprenticeship starts in a whole range of different sectors, construction, which you mentioned, Peter, but we've also seen it in aerospace, we've seen it in finance, we've seen it in digital, we've seen it in healthcare, a whole range of different sectors have all benefited from this levy transfer in our region.
And the other thing, David, that you have done as a combined authority is you've invested in the places that matter, which is the colleges that are actually going to support apprenticeships and actually have rewarding training. I've been to the City of Wolverhampton College. They've expanded dramatically over the last few years into specialist things like plant training, EV stuff and everything like that. All of that has a big cost, but a huge economic impact over the long term. I think it was something like 250,000 EV vehicle mechanics and technicians we need in the UK. And, specialist centres that are now opening up because of the Combined Authority funding. And linking the two and everything together is really important, isn't it? So funding at the top, linking in then the businesses that need apprentices and apprenticeships that are there and that are viable for now and into the future, but equally then putting it all together and wrapping it together so it's easy for people to access, get hold of and take advantage of, isn't it? That's the critical thing that the West Midlands Combined Authority is doing, isn't it?
Absolutely. The key piece there is what you just talked about is place and need.
Right.
And they're really, really important there. And you think about it, a good example you just provided there is around EV. So electric vehicles, we know that in terms of energy transition and from a combustion drivetrain system to electrified drivetrain is going to need different skills. So not only in terms of skills, in terms of production operatives who are putting all this bit together, but those individuals who are actually going to be maintaining the vehicles. So the whole supply chain is heavily involved in terms of upskilling and retraining. And it's areas such as net zero where we've been focusing a lot of our energy, because there's going to be a whole change in working practices, which means that a change in working practices will mean that it's new skills and new skills development. And how do those individuals then access that training, which becomes a need? So some of the things you talked about there about our college network and our college infrastructure is so vital to our local and regional economy, that employers have got training which they can access, and that their workforce can access that training and their future workforce access that training. And it's not just about full-time learning, it's part-time study, it's apprenticeships, it's boot camps, it's a whole range of different types of skills training, which is going to enable an individual to develop the skills which they need to fly in business and work in the businesses which are going to be, hopefully, in terms of jobs of the future around electrification, because we want to see further inward investment. So we're going to create more good jobs for our residents. But the key thing is our residents need the skills to be able to optimize that.
So we've really got a whole thing that's working really well. So what would you say to businesses and individuals looking at this vlogcast and saying, how can we get in touch with the West Midlands Combined Authority? How can we access some of this funding? How can we actually even donate some of our funding to the levy? What do they have to do, David? Where can they find you?
Firstly, I think from a business perspective, it starts to think about succession within the business. Firstly,
right.
What does their workforce plan look like? And that's not just about those large businesses who've got lots of people within the business who do a lot of this for them in terms of an early years career strategy, in terms of mid-career strategy, but also for SMEs to really think about my workforce. What is it that I need within my workforce to enable it to grow? Often, I think from a business perspective, we miss out on thinking about what skills do I need to enable me to transition? And a lot of that could be around leadership management and leadership management type areas. So to think about that workforce plan, I think is really, really important. Secondly, then start to think about, well, what type of support do I need? How am I going to actually drive forward that future workforce plan? And speaking to people like, West Midlands Combined Authority is a good place to start, because we can help signpost businesses in terms of thinking about what offer should they be thinking about. So what kind of skills offer would best meet their needs? And we can start to signpost those businesses to either a local college or an independent training provider who can support them to access that training. So what I want to try and create is a no wrong door approach for businesses. And I don't think we're there yet from a West Midlands perspective, because the skills system can be quite fragmented. But at least for one place for a business to think about, where do I start? Come to us. Our website is there, West Midlands Combined Authority, and then you can start the conversations with us. Alternatively, speak to your local college, speak to your local independent training provider, or even speak to your university, because there is a whole breadth of skills offered out there in terms of degree apprenticeships, which really help businesses transition at higher levels within their business. We have our colleges who also deliver higher level apprenticeships, but also skills boot camps. And then we have the independent training provider market, who also deliver lots of skills training provision in boot camp, sector-based work academy type provision, and of course, other areas such as degree apprenticeships as well.
This is exactly what we need to do. Get involved, open the doors, go and knock on them, open up the future for people, whether that's young people wanting to start their careers, whether that's career changers, or whether it's the upskilling that we need for the digital future that we're going through. David, great to have you on this blog, and thanks very much for making the time for me. Cheers.
Thanks, Peter.